Hey guys, it's Chris Truitt from the Reluctant Somm. We're really excited about season 3. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Just wanted to give another little note that if you like what we're doing and you want to show us some support, reviews, likes, shares, word of mouth, all of these things really help us. We'll also be creating a newsletter this year that focuses on some of our favorite restaurants, favorite wine lists, favorite places to eat, as well as just some really cool people in the industry, as well as some other insights into what's going on in our field of profession. I also wanted to let you know that on that is where we'll be updating everybody on all of our pop-ups and any collaboration events or anything that we're doing. So if you want to keep track of us, that's the best way. Also, if you're not already following us on Instagram, you can follow us at Reluctant Somm on Instagram and keep up with us. Give us likes. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
This is our, it's in a paper cup. It's obviously water next to the water glass. It's a wonderful little treat from my close friend, Joe Lopez, who lives in Desert Hot Springs and goes to Mexico 7 or 8 times a year and brings back, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, brings back different containers full of different liquids and repackages them. And I partake in those. Free of charge, of course.
Who would blame you
for
partaking?
I don't blame me. I don't blame me at all.
Good for you. Good for you.
Okay, so you were ready. You have a question for me.
I do have a question.
It's an interview for me.
No, this is just the only question. I just want to make sure that it's are tears allowed
Absolutely
on your podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then we can start.
Tears of joy, tears of sadness, any tear.
You'll get all of them today.
That's great.
Yeah,
well, I mean,
absolutely.
Great in a sense of this is a comfortable space where we can share how we feel, whether it's angry, sad, happy, whatever.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
I just want everyone to know that I'm okay. Just free-flowing emotions over here, audience.
Okay, so we can get into all of this emotion. I think we should start with the typical structure.
Make sure.
No, the typical structure. You've listened to episodes.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. So I feel lucky to have known you now for how long have you been an angler?
I've been an angler for almost, it's coming up like right on 2 years.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And, I would go in for lunches and stuff. I'd always see you, but unfortunately we never had a chance to hang out. I'm happy to get a little bit of time with you while time is to be had in the wonderful city of San Francisco. Mostly wonderful city of San Francisco. So take us through. We've heard about you a little bit on Andre's podcast. I know that you and Andre used to work together in Dallas.
Yeah.
Which is where you're headed, which we'll tap into. But, are you from there? Where's the journey start?
So I grew up in a suburb of Dallas called Garland. Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know Garland, it's right outside Dallas, not far. My mom still lives there.
Hi, Mom.
And my first restaurant job was at Babe's Chicken Dinner House. Yeah. If any of you are from Garland or the Dallas area, you know Babe's quite well. It's a fried chicken restaurant where you get sides, family style. It is absolutely ridiculous. I was required to do the hokey pokey. And then from there, I kind of started working in different restaurants around Garland, just sort of like needed some extra cash. My parents were both in restaurants. It was very natural for me to kind of gravitate towards that lifestyle. Random stuff. I don't know. I got a job for 3 days at Razoo's and worked at this barbecue restaurant and eventually worked at this really cool place in American Airlines Center area near the stadium that isn't there anymore, but it was called La Condesa, and there's I think they still have a restaurant in Austin, and it was this really cool tequila bar with very cool Mexican food, and I was way too young to be working there. I was 19. But it was the first cool place that I worked.
Of course. I mean, nobody would drink before 21, so it's fine.
No one would drink cool tequila before
Nobody
21.
would drink cool
That's
shit.
for sure.
Yeah.
Nobody would.
I think I drank Rumpelmans when I was 19.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Yeah. It was like a flavored vodka kind of lifestyle for me back then. Pretty sure. I'm not proud of it. But that was really fun. That was the first time where I was oh, this restaurant is a concept. It's about something. I didn't know anything about anything, but I could feel that this was kind of a happening place where people were going and people were really excited about it. And it was coming from a cool area of town. And I had kind of I was transitioning into working in Dallas proper at the time instead of working in and around the suburbs. And after that, I actually started working in downtown Plano at a restaurant called Urban Crust. 3-story pizza restaurant, Italian wine, wood-fired pizza. There was like a ice bar up top, so they had like Patron, and I bet they still do. That place is still up and running, still really popular in the area.
That's Urban Crust.
Urban Crust, yeah, absolutely. They had like I was Patron, Jaeger,
Fireball.
It wasn't Fireball. It was like
no.
something else. There was like 3 things on tap, and it was like unhinged up there. It was like a DJ, and it was pizza and a million people dancing, and it was a little wild. But after that was sort of like in my formative years. After that, I was hanging out in downtown Plano, and there was a bar called Vickery Park, and it was kind of it's still a staple in downtown Plano. There was one in Dallas at the time as well. But I got really into craft beer, which I didn't really know much about it other than I was like, why does this taste different from other beer? And why does this beer taste different from this other beer? And I was curious about that. And so for my birthday, I went to this restaurant called Meddlesome Moth, which actually, I believe it's tonight, either tonight or tomorrow night, is their last night of service in Dallas, which is so wild because that restaurant is such a big part of my story. High rents, landlords, you know the story. It's happening everywhere.
The trend across the country right now.
Yeah, it's happening everywhere. So I went there for my birthday and had the best time, and they had 40 taps and this huge like cellared bottled beer list, and it was so cool at the time. People were lining up for it because you couldn't just go to the brewery and get this stuff at the time. There's also a slightly different system in Texas than there is in California, but I wanted to work there more than anything in my whole life. I was like, this is my dream. I have to work here. So I swindled my way into a bartender position there. Again, I didn't know anything. I did not know anything. I had pretty strong familiarity because I enjoyed beer quite a bit and went to beer bars. But I got into this bartender position there, and I just have never seen anything like it. That was wild. Just like really, really intense, like 5 deep at the bar, 40 taps, just really, really insane. Yeah. And that was where I worked right before I moved here the first time in 2015. How much do you want to know? I can just like
keep going. This is awesome.
If you want.
No, I mean you're doing. First of all, you're doing a great job. You're talking about like the first time you worked in a restaurant that had a concept, and you're talking about the first time you were finding distinction between different beverages. I mean, like keep going. That's great.
Killing it. Perfect. So I worked there for about 2.5 years. I remember, I'm going to shout out Luis Cifuentes, was my bar back at the time. And this man on the fly taught me how to make a Manhattan. Like I should not have been bartending. I was so young. I was so inexperienced. I did not know cocktails at all. But they gave me a chance because I was like, I love beer. I'm so excited. And, I was really passionate about it. So I wound up learning a lot about drinks really, really fast. And I was talking about this to somebody earlier today that this is the service well where like my soul went to die, like dead. It was insane. I still talk to people who worked there at the time about like there's nothing like nothing has ever felt so intense since this time. And it was partially because we had 40 taps. It was partially because we were doing like build your own flights. It was partially because we had 25 seats at the front bar and then like however many 20 seats at the rail plus however many people could fit in between. And it was partially because we were making it was like 2012 to 2015. So it was like this time in the craft cocktail industry in Dallas where stuff was not like people did not have their shit together. Really. I mean, they did a little bit and they were starting to figure it out, but stuff wasn't batched.
There was no clean. Batching. I remember that.
No, it was like muddling and a 25th of an ounce of chartreuse and everything. And it was just wild. Yeah. It was wild. And in a bar that big, like I'm 5'4", I'm like climbing on shit. Like I'm like, it is insane. So that's why I'm dead inside. Yeah. Anyway, then I moved to San Francisco. After that, I got a tip from a friend who was already living out here that just really was really enjoying it as an industry professional. I had never been here, but I was like, sick, let's go. Move. So I came out here and had a couple of jobs in the first 6 or so months that I worked here. first job was at a place called Hops and Hominy.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the financial district. Like it was off a Grant, and it was tucked into this little alley that was like really cute. There were like Christmas lights and stuff, and it was like Southern food, like bacon infused old fashions.
Cool.
What else? Like
feels 2015.
Very 2015. It was very cute. The food was pretty good. And I worked there for a few months, and then I helped open. How long have you been here?
2018.
2018. Okay, so there was a bar. Okay, so Natimius and Bon Vivants got together in 2015. Do you know Café de Nord in Swedish American Hall?
Yeah,
okay, so in 2015, they opened a cocktail bar in that space called Café de Nord.
Okay.
And it was insane. It was like they did like half price champagne after midnight with half price oysters, and it was just like an industry free for all. It was super fun, and I was only there for a few months. But then finally, the Monk's Kettle.
Okay.
I wound up at the Monk's Kettle, which wound up feeling like a lot like home to me. It was like this very familiar sort of beer-oriented community. I was around all these people who were like just really passionate about it. Everyone who worked there at the time was a Cicerone. Mm-hmm.
Sick.
It was a wild time for craft beer.
I only know like 2 Cicerones in my whole life now.
3.
Well, there we go. Now I know 3. A third. There we go.
So I was really into beer at the time, and beer was so cool then at the time. It was such a thing. And like McKellar Bar was hopping, and I like have a lot of friends and a lot of colleagues that worked at McKellar. Like literally some of my dearest friends in the world working at McKellar Bar at that time. I worked at Monk's Kettle. I managed Monk's Kettle for like 3 years at 16th and Albion, like one of the weirdest intersections in the Mission. Mm-hmm. But that was a super fun time. One of the most fun jobs that I've had in the city for sure. And then finally, I started working at Fico.
Okay.
I sent my resume into Fico like 30 times. I was like, as they were opening, I was living really close, and I was like, this is sick. Whatever this is, I want to be a part of it. And I like did the research, and I was setting my resume for a server position. And that was 2018. So I was 30. Mm-hmm. I turned 30 that year. Mm-hmm. And I remember them being like, you don't have enough service experience to work here. And I was like, literally what? Yeah. I was like, this is wild.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it, and looking back, and like at that time in San Francisco, I was not qualified to be working on the floor there. Truly. Like these, like at that time, that was like one of the most intense services probably that was happening in the city.
It's a very choice restaurant. I mean, they got first round picks, so I could see that. Yeah.
So I sent my resume in there like 3 times, and finally I got an interview. And I interviewed with a guy, and he was like, no, you're just like not really like that ready to work service. P.S. He called me back later and offered me a management position. Just saying, I turned it down. But later on, someone who I will also shout out is Christopher Longoria, who was the bar director at the time. And he found my resume under a stack of resumes on the desk in the office and was like, who is this girl? Like, who is this Cicerone applying for this bartender or this serving job? And he was like, yo, you have bar experience. Like, do you want to be behind the bar? And so I came in and I staged, and the bar program was insane at the time. Did you go?
No.
Oh.
No, I didn't go for the first time until like 3 years ago.
I mean, it's still incredible, but at the time the bar program was like, no offense to anything they're doing now, but it was like they were freshly open, and it was like a big thing.
Yeah. Really making statements.
And it was so intense. We were like running our own like cocktail area, plus a wait list for the bar seats, plus like pumping out some of the best cocktails in the city. We had like 5 people behind that bar. It was wild. It's wild. It's
not really that big of a bar. I mean, when you look at it across the restaurant, it looks kind of big, but when you look behind the bar, there's really not much room.
You have 3 wells. It's actually like really well laid out. You have like one back there in the corner by the dishwasher, and then you have the one that's like in the corner that can see like pretty much that whole back side of the restaurant. And then of course what we called production, which was that front well.
Service
and, like, that's
well,
where the service well came out on that big, like that sort of big slab of marble or whatever it is. But it was wild. We were doing like callbacks behind the bar. It sounded like a kitchen. It was nuts. It was like it was nuts. It was very cool. It definitely it changed the way that I thought about restaurants. It was like my first step as like a real adult person into like big time,
So more serious service.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And so at that restaurant, there was the wine director at the time was Francesca Maniace, who was the first person, like we sat down and sort of did the wine training, and she was the first person that was ever like, yo, like you're into beer. You have a good palate. Like you've trained your palate. You've taken your Cicerone exam. Like you
know as much as you know about cocktails.
Yeah, exactly. Or, you can taste things. Like you were interested in tasting things. You were interested in, learning about beverage. And she kind of was like, you have great questions. Like took me under her wing, would, pull me aside and allow me to taste wines and take me across the street to Fool's Errand and drink champagne with me when she probably shouldn't have. But really made it a point to foster my knowledge in a way that like got me really into Italian wine. We were like, I went from like, I don't want to say zero because I was working in restaurants and drinking wine, but like I went from like zero to like filling out a map of Italy in like 30 seconds. Like it was wild, So I got really into Italian wine at first. And I was like so interested because there were so many different indigenous varietals.
Limitless.
Yeah, it's wild. And like I still sort of gravitate that direction, and I think I probably always will, but I really credit Francesca for a lot of my like kind of kick-starting that knowledge for me, and really like kind of taking it and harnessing it and like trying to inspire more learning.
Focusing it.
Yeah. And Fico was always really good about education anyway. Right. So like that was really cool. Went downstairs and opened Alimentari for them.
Right.
Which was a very cool thing when it first opened. It was almost like the secret sexy big sister. It was like everyone on the floor was a Somm except me. So we didn't have like a dedicated Somm on the floor. Francesca would come down and help us open bottles sometimes. But we were basically running this floor with like one manager, a host, 3 servers that were all like serving wine and pulling their own bottles. So that after that, 2019, moved back to Dallas,
right?
Which is when I eventually got to Homewood. I was applying at jobs all over Dallas, and there were some places that I thought that I wanted to work, and I kept going in, and I was like sad. I was like, this wine program is, and obviously I knew that I was coming from San Francisco to Dallas, and I am not trying to be any type of way, but there was, especially when I moved back in 2019, quite a bit of a gap as far as like who was being adventurous.
Who was pushing the boundaries.
Who was pushing the boundaries at all.
Yeah.
So I bounced around to these restaurants where I thought I wanted to work. They were very like Italian driven concepts, and they just weren't working. It was just like not working. I was like, either I hate this or they hate me or whatever it is.
Nobody's
happy.
I
interviewed at Bob's Steak and Chop House, y'all. Like I have like very minimal face piercings. I'm like pretty regular looking for San Francisco. But in Dallas, this man is like, you have to take all your face piercings out. Like cannot handle you. And I was like, okay, sick. I'm out.
Yeah.
And so then I went to dinner at a restaurant called Homewood. I went to dinner at that restaurant because the person that I was in a long-term relationship with at the time was applying for a job there. So he's like, let's go sit at the bar. Let's have a drink. And I was like, okay, sounds great. It was right down the street from where we were living. I think we walked over there. It was a nice night. I'm looking at the wine list, and I remember their BTG. This is what stands out to me. I was thinking about this earlier today. And the BTG had, what is the GD Vira, the Carbonic Nebbiolo by the glass? You know which one I mean with the red label?
Yeah, with the red label.
It's so delicious.
Yeah.
I feel like so many of us have poured it by the glass, and I love that wine so much. But I remember going back to Dallas and being like, there's Carbonic Nebbiolo by the glass on this list. There's hope. Absolutely, there's hope.
Right.
And I knew one of the wine professionals that worked there at the time from a restaurant, way, way back. Actually, the Lark on the Park, which was the Meddlesome Moth's other concept. And I it was just like, this is really cool. But like my partner's applying for this job and honestly did not wind up getting the job, unfortunately. And I was like, yo, you're not going to love this, but I'm going to go work there. And it was like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm going to go work there. Yeah. They want me to work there. Yeah. They asked me to in an interview that I scheduled.
I mean, that's a merit. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Or was it not awesome? Was it not awesome?
It was awesome for me. It wound up awesome for me. Like very, very, very good for me. And we'll talk about that for sure. But he was not happy about that for a long time. I can see that. But for sure. I wound up starting there as like a server and a bartender. I was like working a hybrid position, and the wine buyer at the time was like, "Hey, I need help on Sundays. Can you like help me do inventory, and can you like help me do all this stuff?" And I was like, absolutely. I know nothing, but yes, of course, I would love to. And that was November or December of 2019. So I worked there for like 3 or 4 months. And then I'm behind the bar one Sunday morning in March of 2020. And there's a couple talking at the bar, and it's like, it must have been like March
20th or whatever.
Before.
No. Oh, okay.
It was like
it was the 14th. I can't remember what it was.
I want to say it was like the 15th. I don't remember exactly.
Maybe
but
the 14th was my
like,
last service at Boulevard, and the 15th was when the national close down thing kind of happened.
So I heard this couple talking at the bar, and they were just like speculating in either direction. I can't remember exactly what they were saying, but I remember feeling like not good. I was like, this is bad. Like, this is real bad. This is going to be bad. And I was working a double, and it was like brunch and a dinner, and like everybody was unhinged and everybody was worried, and none of us would ever drink a mimosa on shift. And we definitely didn't that day. But I remember that was our last day of service, and it shut down. And in Dallas, things opened up way sooner than in San Francisco. So it was it was like pretty quick. Yeah. I think I went back June 1st.
Yeah.
And they like did an interesting thing where they opened up restaurants first and then bars later. And they did like a 25%, 50%, 75%, then eventually 100%. But it was wild. I went back June 1st, and eventually we wound up losing the wine director. We wound up losing one of our managers. And eventually everybody was just looking at me. And they were like, hey, you want to do this thing? Do you want to be general manager and wine buyer of a restaurant in the middle of a pandemic?
And you said, of course.
Of course I do. Absolutely. I would love nothing more. So I did. I did. And it was really exciting. And it was very, this chef that I work for, Chef Matt McAllister, he is still a very good friend and colleague of mine. Honestly has always been a champion of mine, and I owe a lot of my opportunity to that man. He did not have to give me this opportunity, but he looked at me and he knew that I cared, and he knew that I like wanted to be excellent, and that I got something on a deeper level because I had worked in other markets and I had been exposed to things that weren't just the Dallas scene. And he had a lot of faith in me, and he offered me like a little bit of help, but pretty much just like let me go, which was insane looking back on it. And a lot of the reps in Dallas like really took me under their wing in a way and like really supported the program and all like showed up for me in a lot of ways. And we did some really, really, really cool shit. Some really cool shit.
Andre was telling me about a lot of the things.
He talked way too much about me on his podcast. Okay. It was very sweet, but yeah, I mean, no, we did some very cool things. Yeah. We did some very cool things. What specifically was he talking about?
No, I just remember there being like Eastern European varieties, and I remember there being skin contact things. Weird. And I mean, from what he was mentioning, I'm trying to recall it now, and I kept telling myself I was going to listen to it today to refresh for it, but I know that he was working the concept somewhere else that was a bar that turned into a retail space. You guys were doing kind of a retail-y restaurant
During the pandemic,
too,
yeah.
right? And then I remember him saying that it wasn't changing all the time, but you guys were like changing things pretty regularly.
It was changing all the time. I was unhinged.
Yeah.
He was probably being like a little bit nice. But we, especially during the pandemic, because it was like you can't really buy wine. And we had all of this wine already.
Shipping was such a pain in the ass. It would come in, it would disappear.
We were sitting on all this wine.
Yeah.
We had a ton of wine and we weren't selling it. So there was a lot of time where I was like, okay, well, I need to replace this thing. I need to replace this thing. But I wasn't buying a ton of wine. I was just trying to like move through a ton of wine. And that was the summer no one was drinking rosé anymore. It was only orange wine.
I remember that.
It was insane.
Weird times.
It was weird. And now no one's drinking orange wine.
No, nobody drinks orange wine. Or rosé.
Or rosé. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Neither.
Yeah.
Neither. It's really funny, actually.
Now it's natural, non-natural. Before it was rosé and everything else, orange and everything else, and now it's natural, not natural. Yeah.
At Bar Jabroni, we get a lot of like orange wine or chilled red.
Yeah.
Chilled red is the big thing.
Yeah. Still? Or when you were there?
I mean, that was like October, November, December. Wow. So like, I mean, still, I don't know. Has the trend changed?
We put some chilled red on the menu at our bar that we consult at, and like it went really well for like 6 months, and then it just died. And we were doing not the traditional Odero, the Contento Rosso, which was like a Nebbiolo Barbera blend, non-vintage blend that we were serving chilled from Elevage. And
hell yeah.
Yeah, and it was cool. But then it died. And then we were like, I guess we don't need a chilled red anymore.
I mean, it's just these like, okay, we can talk about that in a minute. Anyway, Homewood was really like my most formative, like that was the thing that really like changed the direction of my life. I was like, this is something that I have been a part of in a way that feels so personal, where my like philosophy, my ethos, my opinions and tastes have been like formed. Is in this space. I'm rapid fire tasting wine all day, every day. And like I'm so new. Like I actually have to taste all these wines. Whereas like now it's like, okay, like I'll taste the new vintage, whatever. You know, like right. I like understand the produce, like it's so different now. But then all of these reps could have really taken advantage of me. And they maybe did a little bit and I wasn't smart enough to know, but for the most part, took really good care of me.
Did you sell the wine?
I did sell the wine.
Then they didn't get you. It's when it sits and it doesn't move
I sold so much wine. I sold so much wine. I did so many wild accounts. I pushed so hard, but I wouldn't have been able to do that without the team that I had, without being supported by the chef, by Chef Matt, and without all the people that were willing to sell me wine and work with me and like help me build a really cool program. I also inherited a lot of really cool stuff, which also probably is still in a locker somewhere.
Right.
So, after Homewood, I moved back to San Francisco. So I went to Fico, did a little stint as an assistant general manager, which I learned very quickly is not something that I'm interested in doing.
Yeah.
No shade. I just like can't with the vague management positions and like this, like it's not for me. I've done it. I don't want to do it. So then I had like a brief buying job at a restaurant that's no longer there in like Civic Center, Le Fantastique.
Oh yeah.
They had Bird Dog in Palo Alto as well. I think Robbie has since moved to Nashville.
Okay.
But I had a brief buying job there, and that's sort of where I like came back in touch with a lot of my friends in the wine community through buying wine at that restaurant for just a few months. They wound up closing for the summer. And I was like, they're closing for the summer. I'm probably going to have to find something else. So that's how I went up in Angler. And that was June or July of 2023. I was dating someone at the time who worked at Saison in the kitchen.
I see. And
I had met Molly Green.
The best.
Literally the best. Yeah. The best. The best. I had met Molly Green, of course, through through just like collective gatherings, and had become friends with her. And I saw an ad for a cellar somm at Angler, and it was like this 5-day-a-week position, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. You like work lunch and like just like organize the cellar.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else gets to do the cool service stuff. You get to like touch bottles, you get to print stickers, you get to sticker the bottles, you get to put in invoices and all of that stuff. So that was like my main job when I first started at Angler. Mm-hmm. Lunch was not doing great. And I don't remember exactly how it happened or when it happened, but eventually they were like, we're not doing lunch.
The lunch service was like on and then off and then back on again.
Yes.
And then 5 days a week and then 7 days a week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a little bit all over the place, and they were really trying to make it work. And finally, the chef that they have now is like really made it doable, I think. It's been a struggle, and of course, like it's all about marketing, and it's all about like getting people in the door and talking about lunch and executing lunch and making sure lunch is as good as it needs to be in order to like gain the steam that it needs to gain.
Right.
So I was a big part of that until they closed for lunch. I started working a couple dinner shifts, and I picked up some bar shifts at this cocktail bar in Cow Hollow called Left Door.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was working at Angler with this woman, Alex Johnson, who used to work for back of house, like Beretta and Taylor's Son. And I don't, that group, she's done like a lot of operations for them.
Rosa and Wild Seed. And they have so many.
Flores,
things.
so many.
Flores,
super successful.
Yeah.
All over the place. She has since moved to New York, but she was like just working a little part-time host gig at Angler. Mm-hmm. And she told me, she was like, hey, like my girlfriend Rachel is opening up this bar in Cow Hollow. Like, can you help? I was like, yeah, like I have bartending experience, I have serving experience, I have management experience, I have somm experience. Like, what do you need? Sure.
Yep.
Sign me up. So I link up with this woman, Rachel. Never met her. Never been into this space. I'm messaging her. I'm like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. What's the vibe? Like, or is this a dive bar? Like, is this a cocktail bar? Mm-hmm. What are we doing? She's like, it's elevated cocktails. I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that. I'm like, what do I wear? And she's like, I don't know, like cute casual, whatever. Or like cute business casual. Mm-hmm. I don't know. She's like, look nice.
Yeah.
And I've never set foot into this space. And so I walk into this space opening night. And I don't remember exactly where I wound up, but I just start making drinks. I'm like, I just got the specs. Right. I just start making drinks. Yep. I planned on only working like 2 or 3 weeks there. And I just like literally never left. I never left. I loved it so much. It was so wild. It's still so wild. If you've never been there, you should go check it out.
I haven't. I am kicking myself for not going.
I mean, there's still time. It's open.
Yeah.
For business. Yeah. Anyway, so I started making drinks again there, and that was really, really, really fun. And I wound up doing that for probably 8 or 9 months, and then I left for a little while. I worked at Bar Jabroni, which is a great time. Mm-hmm. I love Max and Dennis so much. And then I went back to work at Left Door because I missed it quite a bit. I love to bartend. It was just, it's a very special place. It's hard to describe, but so that's my story. And now I'm working my last week at Angler. And I did technically finish my last shift at Left Door last week. And when is this going to air?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Okay, great. Yeah. I'm working a surprise shift. Nobody knows. I'm working one this Saturday. So I'm bartending one last time at Left Door, and then I'm done in San Francisco.
How do you feel about that? An easy question to answer. No.
So, I love this city so much. I have was thinking about this earlier today, and honestly, 3 of the most rewarding relationships that I've had in my life are with my career in the food and beverage industry. The friendships that I've created doing those things and my like long-term, like full-hearted romance with San Francisco. I love it here so much. This city has given me so much life. It has shown me who I am and who I can be, and so many opportunities and possibilities. I've worked so hard here. For those of you who haven't lived here, getting groceries and walking up a hill at the end of the day is hard. It is hard to live here, but it is so rewarding. I have made so many amazing friends. I've done so many amazing things. The beautiful sights and textures and views that you see in this city and in the Bay on a daily basis is like unmatched. Long story short, I'm absolutely heartbroken. And I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I've never, ever, ever been ready to leave this behind. Any of the times that I've left, it's so hard.
Yeah.
But
it'll be here.
It will be here. And I refuse to be one of those people in Dallas that like, it's like, I hate Dallas. Dallas sucks. Dallas sucks. And I refuse to be one of those people that comes back to a place that is their home and like has been good to them, where they have community and they have opportunity. And not be present there. Mm-hmm. So I'm like really practicing this, like letting go of this like big, beautiful thing that I've built here. And it's difficult. Yeah. It's difficult. I'm in Angler setting up lunch service, like folding napkins on the table, like arranging plates, pushing in chairs. I'm weeping. I'm staring out over the bay. I'm weeping like on a daily basis. And it's so beautiful to like have this thing that you love so much that you're not tired of.
Yeah.
That is going to be here for you. So I feel a lot of ways about it. I'm surprised I'm not crying currently, but
you hit your quota for the day.
Did I cry yet today?
No.
Probably. I think I have. I think I have.
There's still podcasts left, so we can get there.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm on the verge. So I don't know. I am not ready, but I also feel like it's kind of time to go back to Dallas.
Yeah.
So, which I'm excited to do. Both things are true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both things can always be true. I think that's the beauty of like the duality of life, right? You can be happy and sad at the same time. You can be angry and relaxed at the same time. I mean, life is wildly complex and you know, especially when it comes to community. I mean, it's cool that you have that Dallas community already, so you're going to have something to go back to. It's not just like a raw start. You know, that I feel like would probably be way more terrifying,
of course.
You know?
Even last time I moved back was much different because I didn't have I was like not as confident as of a professional as I am now, but I also like didn't have a community in Dallas, and so now like going back is like a much different feeling.
And the beverage scene in Dallas has really flourished. I think. I mean, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here. It feels like since the pandemic, a lot of people left kind of the major cities and expanded out across the country, and it feels like things have kind of developed a little more. I mean, I remember the Houston market kind of flourishing when I was leaving in 2017. But I'm sure there's a lot of cool places to work in Dallas now.
There are. There are a lot of cool places, and honestly, like the bar scene in Dallas, I love.
Yeah.
I love the bar scene in Dallas. There's something that's like really authentic about it in this way that's like Southern and sort of gritty, and there's like a lot of good burgers in Dallas. There's a lot of good dive bar food. There's a lot of good, I mean, especially in comparison to San Francisco, like late night stuff, you know? And there's like a lot of like dive bars with like colorful Christmas lights. It just feels, I don't know. There are a lot of good bars in Dallas. I love the bar scene. The restaurant scene goes through like ebbs and flows. And of course, I haven't been present in that scene for the most part for like probably a decade. So I'm not going to like try and speak on something that I haven't been fully present for. But it feels like these waves come in of these like new generation chefs that like open these restaurants. And then the community supports them until they don't. And then they close. And then it's just this sort of like these ebbs and flows of these cool restaurants opening and then closing. And these big sort of like surf and turf steakhouses being like sort of the staple or the mainstay.
Right.
And that's not necessarily true across the board, but I would say that those are the constants.
Mm-hmm.
And in a place like Dallas, I, as someone who has experienced this firsthand, as someone who has like been a part of shifting the dial in a way that was very meaningful, like with the help of many people, don't get me wrong, and the engagement of like of clientele, of regulars, of people who cared. So like I didn't do it by myself, but I was the person on the business card, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there is so much opportunity in a place like Dallas to create really, really creative beverage professionals. Because there isn't a set standard in the same way that there is here.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself, you know, I love going out in San Francisco. I love eating in San Francisco. I've loved working in San Francisco. I have never seen like my final step, like whatever my like life's work or my magnum opus is going to be, happening here.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt like it was going to be somewhere. I always felt like it was going to be in Dallas, but I also always felt like that's the place that my voice would be heard.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. Do you want to talk about what you're doing over there?
A little bit. I don't have like a lot of really immediate plans.
Sure.
There is a gentleman who I used to work for at Angler and Saison Hospitality, Johnny Buhanda, who worked for the Alinea Group in Chicago and came and opened Angler and was eventually the DO of the group. He moved to Dallas about a year ago. And so when I found out I was moving back to Dallas, he was the first person I reached out to. And it turns out he's working for this group that does really well in Dallas, and they're opening up a concept soon, and they are going to need a somm. So enter me.
There we go.
I'm going to be living with my mom for a little while in Garland.
Yeah.
Shout out Garland. So
maybe hanging out at Babes.
Oh God, I hope not. Unless anyone literally wants to come drink grower champagne and eat fried chicken in Garland, Texas, like come find me.
I'm sure the corkage fee is not that bad.
It's free. I'm pretty sure it's free. I'm pretty sure it's literally BYOB.
Even
it's
better.
Not even corkage.
Yeah. So
you know, people don't take enough advantage of Babes.
No, it's funny because you mentioned Babes and I immediately thought of Pluckers because that's the one that I remember in Houston. You know, and
yeah,
it's
no
just
Pluckers.
One of my old managers used to work at Pluckers back when I lived in Texas, and he was like, "Yeah, we'd order a pallet of Patron a week," and I was just like, "What?"
Pluckers was a thing for a while. That was wild.
Yeah. There was
like the chicken wing phase was a thing in Texas.
Yeah. You get a Bloody Mary and it would have like 3 chicken wings skewered in it. It was brutal. It would come out. I think they were the one that was also doing like the whole fried chicken on the Bloody Mary. Did you ever see that? They'd get like a smaller bird and they would just like skewer it and put it right on top of your Bloody Mary.
It's a squab.
Well, yeah, at that point.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That is.
Or they just got a pigeon from the back alley, and you know.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly, Pluckers was special.
Yeah.
In that kind of way, it was like those. That was a weird time in like the weird like suburbs. It was like people were working at places like Texas Roadhouse and getting like 5 years of training and management experience and like adding that to their resume. They're working at Pluckers or like Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah.
And that was like what you did.
And Landry's Corporation had a huge footprint.
Landry's
there.
for sure.
I mean, still does.
Papa's
but yeah,
also.
Papa's. Yeah. Yeah, it's I miss Texas a lot of times. I mostly miss the lesser expensive living, but
and the big ice waters.
Oh yeah. And the big iced teas.
Big iced teas.
Yeah, and the Whataburger. There's no Whataburgers here. I love Whataburger. The spicy ketchup.
I will
Number
fight
2 with
somebody
cheese
about
dry.
In-N-Out. I will fight
Number
somebody
2
about
with
In-N-Out.
cheese dry beats the shit out of every other fast food burger that there is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Validated.
Oh, I will die on that hill.
Not only that, until In-N-Out serves me fucking breakfast,
Yeah.
I don't even want to have this conversation.
Right.
Biscuits and gravy, pancakes, honey butter
Or
chicken
late night
biscuits.
eats.
At all.
At all. Yeah. Why can't I go get In-N-Out
up
at midnight
In-N-Out.
or 1 or whatever? I don't care if you want to treat your employees well or not. It's not my problem. Feed me. No, I'm just kidding.
We're not kidding. No, we're kidding. We're kidding.
So there's a lot to cover throughout your story, and
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I'm
no,
old.
no, thank you for sharing it with me. I think it's awesome, and there's a lot, and it's really fun to see kind of the evolution. You had mentioned kind of starting off at Fico and it being kind of the first place where you really like dove into wine specifically, but you had been drinking wine before. In any of the bartending, bar managing positions, were you purchasing some wine? Was it part of the program or mostly just beer and cocktail?
Just beer and cocktails.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think was kind of like the main jumping off point? Was it mostly just Francesca taking you under the wing and kind of like teaching you, or was there a wine in particular, or was it just kind of like an initial hobby that became something deeper?
So I had already decided that like I was going to specialize in beverage.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had already been like, okay, Cicerone was sort of my starting point, and then I was like, okay, how else can I build this? I have already made, and I sort of still live my life that way.
Mm.
It's like always trying to add tools to the tool belt. Francesca was definitely a big part of that. Ooh, okay. That looks like I'm gonna like it.
Yeah.
Francesca was definitely a big part of this for me. But it was also, and I think like a lot of people can relate to this, as someone, I'm not classically trained at all. I have 0 certifications. Come for me if you want. But I have 0 certs, and I'm not against certs. I just have not done them myself. I plan to in the future. But I started making connections. I started being able to like recognize smells and textures and qualities of different wines. And the first grape that ever happened for was Nebbiolo.
Mm-hmm.
And that was such an exciting experience for me. And I still love Nebbiolo so much for that reason. I don't drink it very much anymore. But I still have so much love for Nebbiolo because it was the first grape I ever fell in love with.
Right.
And I remember like it was a lot of Italian wines. I remember the first like blind taste I ever called was something ridiculous. It was like some sort of like Valpolicella blend. It was like the Pra Morandina is actually what I think that it was. But I remember we were talking about it at Alimentari. But I started being able to recognize these varietals and these qualities and think about wine in a way that wasn't just like, are we drinking this thing and do I like it?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's always very exciting for me when you can recognize something. And I mean, it might be a little bit of an ego thing, but it's so exciting. That like crossover into being like also understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so Italian wine really did that for me. Nebbiolo really did that for me. Fico really did that for me. So yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it was like a perfect storm of multiple things, right? Francesca, learning the find a distinction between the grapes and kind of find that typicity. It's funny because, Italian wine is probably one of the most difficult and most intimidating categories. I mean, I guess it used to be. Now you get into the Eastern European stuff and it gets a little bit more intimidating, and you get into Greece and nobody knows left from right. I mean, many people do, right? But the majority of us don't. And it didn't, did you feel, were you intimidated at all, or was it just like such a great environment that you were in that it was kind of like a great fostering thing?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was intimidated because I'm always kind of intimidated. I like live in imposter syndrome a little bit, which I think is like not always.
That's called humility, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I would agree that I try to like live in this humble space. So like always never wanting to be the smartest person in the room, but Italian wine wasn't really intimidating to me after I like understood how to sell it. Until it got to be like the really expensive stuff, and then you bring in Francesca or whatever and she helps. But the stuff that has been intimidating to me until recently and is still a little bit intimidating to me is that like really high end stuff that you don't get to open a lot.
Right.
Like the really old expensive Bordeaux, the really old like high end Napa Cab, like all of these things. Like I was like very late to Napa. I was like very late to California wines. I went like straight into Italian. So like all of these places that people normally start, I was having to catch up on, whether it be like Burgundy or Napa or Sonoma or Spain.
Yeah.
wherever else. Like
Yeah.
Italy was the first thing that I learned. And so I'm like, people are like, I would really love to spend $5,000 on a Burgundy. I'm like, you should spend $300 on a Barolo.
And you could get 3 different vintages of the same wine.
It's so great for you.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was less intimidating than it probably should have been at the time. But once I opened up into international varietal, or like, I'm sorry, like a more like international sort of menu building experience, it was like, it was very intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it only gets like more intimidating the more you learn about wine. It's like, oh, it's like that whole conversation about like the more you know, the less you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? It's like, I know everything, I know nothing, and then you just like slowly plateau after that. Not plateau, but slight incline. At Homewood was, I mean, obviously we talked about kind of the menu evolving and changing quite a bit. That was one of the other questions I had, was kind of like the focus on California wine, or maybe domestic wine as a broad category, let's say. Homewood, were you designating part of the menu to that, or was that kind of, yeah, okay.
It was really important to me, at least as far as I understood at the time, to keep the menu like very fluid, where, and that's still how I think about writing menus, is like, how does everything speak to each other in a way that is like really organic to this concept and what we're doing. And I think of course, like the longer you work in a particular field, the longer you understand it. Obviously, I like feel like I have more of an understanding for what that would be now. But for sure, I mean, we didn't do a ton of like really culty, high-end, super expensive wine. I mean, probably the most expensive wine I had on the list was like $1,000, and that was like huge.
Well, that's expensive for then there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But there's like, I mean, like the, you know, like the Papas, the Carbones, like all of these lists are like really intense, and they have like a lot of like depth. Yeah. By the time I left, I think I had expanded the bottle list to like 200 SKUs. Yeah. Whereas at Angler, we have like, I don't know, I'm going to say like I could check right now exactly on Binwise if you wanted me to, but it's like 4,000.
It's a little bit more.
A little bit more.
I remember the first time I went in and I found the Literai page, and it was just literally a page of Literai. And I was like, and I'm just in the Chardonnays. Wow. It's insane.
Yeah, the list at Angler is really insane. It's such a pleasure to work with. Yeah. It's like neat to see the bones of it, of like all of these like classic regions, classic producers. It's like a who's who in every section. Like, so cool. But then you can kind of see where the Somms fill in their favorite parts of the menu in these ways that are like really authentic. And so that's like, the list is really fun.
You can kind of probably see a little bit of a fingerprint of the Somms that came before, I'm sure, too. And like certain categories that are there that maybe have been there for some time.
Nah. Next question. Just kidding. Yes, for sure. All the time, always. Everybody has their favorites, and we love them for their favorites.
Right. Yeah, we love them for that. One of the things you mentioned throughout your story, you were talking about Matt McAllister and him recognizing something in you, and it was the want to be excellent, right? And that was right around the time that you got this hybrid position. Well, I should say you already had a hybrid position. You were already server, bartender, and then you kind of moved into this, you know, beverage director, GM position. I feel like that was something that happened a lot, especially after the pandemic.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
You know, there was this massive consolidation of roles, and I still don't think that we've really recovered from it. But, you know, this hybrid position
wine-focused
thing,
AGM.
That's it.
$80,000 a year.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, when I was
everywhere.
at Ozumo, they go, you're going to be beverage director. I said, great. So that was 5 nights of service on the floor.
But you're still writing the schedule.
Yeah. It's 5 nights of service on the floor where you had to stay on the floor. And then a morning occasionally where I could catch up on whatever admin I needed to catch up on. For, you know, $3 million a year in beverage sales, half a day of admin is enough, I guess. But that's okay. We all figured our ways through it, or at least most of us. Well, so the want to be excellent is something that I wanted to talk about. It's good.
Yeah, it's so good. Please edit that out.
Ciao.
It's like very me of me. So like, leave it in if you want.
Yeah, we'll leave it in. That's fine. We usually don't edit anything. We cut the heads and tails and.
Great.
That's
Perfect.
that.
Well,
yeah. And potty breaks
water
if there's a
all over
potty break.
myself.
Yeah. It is warm in here, so it's more like a swamp cooler. I don't know that Californians will know what that is. Well, Southern Californians will know what a swamp cooler is, but okay. So the want to be excellent, right? It's something that it seems like a lot of the people that I interview have this kind of inherent trait of not running into the burning building necessarily, because that makes it sound a little more morbid than I think it is, but stepping into the position that needs somebody to step into it. Where do you think that came from? I mean, is that something that you kind of just always had, or was that something that you kind of felt an obligation towards, or?
I felt like in that particular case, I felt like it was an opportunity.
Yeah.
I was like, this is my shot right now. Like, I gotta go. I gotta figure this out. And no one should have hired me for that job. And pre-March of 2020, no one would have hired me for that job.
Sure.
And prior to this, like during my stage at Homewood, I was standing next to Chef Matt at the pass. And he looked at me. Chef Matt is a man of very few words. Quote, like, love him. Anyone who has ever worked for him knows that. And he is until he's not. But he looked at me and he was like, so where did you work in San Francisco? And I was like, Fico. And he was like, okay, so you get it. And I was like, yeah. Like, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Whatever I get, I get. Yeah.
So that was like kind of the extent, like at that moment, it was like before I even ever got on the floor. And it was sort of this like understanding. And from that point forward, I feel like we kind of always had that. And he was kind of like, you can do this. Yeah. And there was a time, and it must have been 2021, where I was from like, so that would have given me like a whole year to be doing this program. And in 2021, I was Rising Star Somm in Star Chefs, which was wild. You know, this guy, Will Blunt, called me from Star Chefs, and he's like, hey, so we're doing this thing, and you're going to be a part of it, and we're going to come in, and we're going to, like, kind of check you out and take some pictures. And I was like, I didn't understand the gravity of the time. And Chef Matt's just like, oh, yeah. Star Chef's cool. I'm like, okay.
It's thing. Yeah.
Because, like, Matt's, like, not the media guy. Like, he does not want to be the center of attention, and he, like, doesn't want to, like, necessarily fuck with publications that don't mean anything. He's not, like, an influencer guy.
Like a lot of chefs don't either.
Yeah, no, for sure. And he was kind of like, Star Chefs is real. And I was like, okay, sick. So I got nominated for this thing, and he called me, and he's like, you're going to be, like, nominated for this thing. We're going to come in, we're going to check you out, we're going to interview, we're going to take pictures. I was like, okay, this is terrifying, but sure. And so they came in, did all of that, sort of sat through pre-shift, like watched me talk to the staff. And then Will called me a couple days later, and he was like, you're our girl. You're Rising Star Somm. And it was such this pivotal moment for me, because they asked me to pick a mentor. And excuse me, I'm like both laughing and crying right now, but I picked Chef Matt McAllister.
Yeah.
And Chef Matt, if you listen to this, I love you so much. Again, is a man of very few words. And so the requirement was that this man had to stand on stage in front of this entire group of people and give a very heartwarming speech about me. And I was humiliated in the best way. Like, I was just like, this man, like, put it out there for me a little bit. He was like, you know, said some very, very sweet things about me. His wife was like, yo, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And he did.
Right.
And from that point forward, I, like, saw him in a very different way. And we've always worked together very, very, very well. And he's a particular kind of, like, passionate, kind of unhinged, like, psychotic person. And I, like, really resonate with that. These people who are like, let's fucking go. Like, let's do this thing. Let's push ourselves. Let's be excellent. Let's do this stuff that nobody's doing with all of our heart.
Yeah.
He's that person.
Yeah.
And he really helped light that up in me as well and see that in me. And he stood on stage and gave a speech about it. And that was a very pivotal moment for me. I don't remember what question I'm answering, but that Chef Matt offered me this. Anyway, the position, it was a huge opportunity, and it like really was really, really, really rewarding.
Right.
So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, very special.
Is Homewood still there? Is Matt still there? Where's Matt?
So I'm like not gonna get into this because it's a very like it's unfortunately Homewood closed like very tragically.
Okay.
Homewood closed very tragically.
Okay.
It was very unfortunate. It was very sudden. It was in February of 2023. It must have been because I moved back here in 22, and I want to say their last service was right around Valentine's Day, and Andre was actually closing wine director and closing general manager of Homewood.
Yeah.
And when Homewood closed, he moved out here.
Yeah. Followed you.
There is a beautiful article about Homewood. If you ever get a chance to read it, it's from D Magazine. And it was just sort of like it was like kind of a passion piece, and it's called An Ode to Homewood. And if you want to read it, it is very special, and it really saw kind of what we were doing in the space at the time, and it's very, very genuine and very sweet. Yeah. So
check it out. I'll try to find it.
You should.
We'll see.
It exists. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me.
Yeah.
That would make it easier.
No, it's still out there. I read it on occasion. It inspires me.
So you have a limited amount of time left in San Francisco. What are your must-dos, or what are some things that you maybe have already checked off of your must-do list? As part of the reason why I wanted to have you here, well, first of all, I wanted to have you here anyways, but part of the reason why I wanted to capture you before you left is I think you offer a really great kind of perspective towards San Francisco. A lot of us can work hard and get really unhappy. I know I do. Sure. Sometimes I look out, I look at the bridge, I go, wow, that's really beautiful. And then I get in the car and I go, get the fuck out of the road, So I try to, focus on the positive, but it's difficult for me. So I'm curious in your remaining time here for this iteration, or maybe all the iterations, I'm not sure. It's not my business, but what are your must-dos, must-sees, must-haves before you go?
So a big one that I want to do, that I haven't done fully yet, that I hope that I have time to, is I want to take the whole Golden Gate Park walk. I really want to just put my headphones on and walk through Golden Gate Park by myself. I think that the things that are the most special about San Francisco are the things that we experience in between. And I'm so I haven't had a car in 10 years, and it's been a pain in the ass for a lot of reasons, but it forced me to engage with my community, has forced me to look over beautiful hills on, into the North Bay and over the bridge, and all of these things that I wouldn't get to see if I were in a car. And I've interacted with some amazing people in the street. I've really feel like being on the ground, on the train, has really enriched my experience in the city. And all of the time that the time that I value the most is the time that I spend by myself here.
Yeah.
And get to listen to music and get to look at everything and feel everything and see everything, because it is so invigorating. It is so electric. It is, even post-pandemic, it is just so inspiring to breathe in the ocean air. It's very special. So the big walk through Golden Gate Park is super high on my list. I went to the beach last Monday, which was huge. I spent all day at the beach, and that was gorgeous. So that was big on the list.
Did you go out to the West Side Beach?
No, we went to Baker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which was beautiful and sunny and super fun. There's some places that I want to eat. I have plans to go to California. I don't know. I feel so fulfilled over the past year. I feel I've really gone very hard in a lot of ways. Burned the candle at both ends.
Right.
Worked really hard. Been out in the city. Engaged with a lot of people. But like my big one is that like that walk through Golden Gate Park.
Yeah.
I want to see the bison. I want to like walk through the Japanese tea gardens. I want to just like be in the sunshine, read a book, listen to music, because the commutes, like the minute to minute, day to day, like the train rides, that is what has been the most special to me. Other than, it's not like the big destinations. It's like everything, like the journeys and stuff in between. So
that's awesome. That's so sweet.
It's so true. It's so true.
I wrote it down. I thought that was
cry.
so beautiful. The things we experience in between, right?
Really, I mean, but like this city isn't a place you go on vacation and see like, I don't know, you don't like go relax on the beach in San Francisco. It's not like going to Destin, Florida. It's not even like going to like, you know, somewhere in, I don't know, around LA or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an intense city that you fall in love with over time. And you have to really be a part of in order to get it. And like I hate to be the one. We all know the quote. Like you can't hate it till you love it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many like incredible poems and books and movies and songs about this place. And we have so many incredible restaurants. And we have dining rooms that people only dream of standing in. And it is so special. And we get to live on the edge of the world and breathe in like the cool ocean breeze and have perfect fucking weather every fucking day.
Yep.
And that's why we're here. Yep. And it is easy to get like fucking mad and frustrated, and it's annoying. And there are parts of the city that don't feel beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There are parts of the city that don't smell good.
Mm-hmm.
But there are like so many places in this city that are beautiful, and there's so many places to eat in the city that are delicious and fun and cool, and there are places to dance, and there are places to be, and we're rebuilding the energy that was taken out of this city during the pandemic. And I think that that's happening. It's very beautiful to see.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's so many times. It's funny you mentioned the train, and it's so many. It's sometimes I'll ride, and I'll put an AirPod in, and I'll listen to podcasts, I listen to music, and I look around and I look at like the amazing diversity of the people that are in the train, and I just think like, oh wow, there's like we have a great view from our apartment. And oftentimes when I'm feeling a lot of anxiety, I'll look out and I go like, well, the world's so much bigger than me, right? And sometimes getting on the train is another great way for me to do that, because I look at all the other people on the train and I think about how all of our lives got us to that one point, and we're all on that train together. And it's just this like beautiful.
We are on the train together.
Yeah, it's this beautiful moment of like, it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from or what your job is. We're there together. I like that. The places we go in between, the places we experience in between. I just love that. That's such a good quote.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I have been thinking about this for a very long time, because I am the kind of person that is very romantic and a very like, I really try to capture moments when I can, and I really try to live in moments when I can. And I haven't always been able to do that, but I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, this is real. This is beautiful. Like my dreams are coming true. I didn't know that these were my dreams, but they are my dreams. And I'm so happy to be experiencing them. And I feel so fulfilled. And I am so proud of this person that I've become in this city, because it's hard work. It is hard work.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be the person I am without it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like so grateful to be here. And I think it's so easy to feel annoyed by beta breakers.
Sure.
The traffic,
yep.
Right? The frat boys.
Yep.
I mean, like,
SantaCon, you were gonna say it. I heard it. I heard it.
I would never.
You can't hide that.
What do you mean, SantaCon? It's the same. It's the same. It's the same. But we live in a very special place, and I could wax poetic about it all day long. But there have been generations of people inspired by the place that we live. We've been doing things in a particular way for a very long time. You know, we have welcomed people from all over the world, from all different cultures and backgrounds and walks of life for a very long time. And I think that, especially coming from somewhere different, it is very inspiring. And I've tried to not let it be lost on me, even in the moments that are very frustrating. So
I think that's something we can all learn a lot from. Any particular domestic producers, California producers that are must-haves when you get back to Texas? Any shout-outs?
So, yeah, sure. Domestic or California? Did you say?
Domestic or California,
Okay.
whatever you want.
Honestly, like some of my favorite California producers are, I love the Cerasuolo wines. Obviously, like who doesn't? I love the Cerasuolo wines. I really like the Arno Roberts wines. I think they're really solid. Really like, obviously, sort of like a kind of a modern classic.
Yeah, the
like,
Ribolla
sort of
Giallo was like mind blowing.
Insane. Yeah. Steve Mathiasen for sure, always. Also Ribolla Giallo, like insane.
I was gonna say there's a lot of Italian theme here. I'm noticing.
Well, I opened up. I mean,
Cerasuolo. I mean, yeah.
I opened 2013 Chardonnay from Steve Mathiasen the other day. It was like just like still stunning. Beautiful wines, and also like always talking to Steve is the best. He's like the warmest, wonderful, like nerdiest guy, and I love to support him. What else? Oh man, I mean, as far as domestic goes, like as far as Chardonnay goes, I love the Morgan Long wines. I love the 00 wines. Actually, going back to Arno Roberts, one of my favorite wines actually is on my list of one of the wines that changed my life. A physical list that I made.
Well, so that's
I did make this list. It was the Arno Roberts Phelim Ranch Cabernet Sauvignon, which is never a thing that I would ever say is on my list of favorites, generally speaking. It was a 2018 vintage that I poured at Homewood that I eventually wound up really liking, like after it had sat for a little while. But I opened up a couple 2016s at Angler that were on the list, and they were just stunning, like beautiful, beautiful wines. Really good value too, like solid value. And actually got into a bottle at Great China that Andre picked out, and a lot of us gave him shit for because it was the middle of the day and we're like, what are you doing? But it was perfect.
Yeah.
So those wines are great. I feel like I'm blanking. I do like I love California wines, and I feel like in particular at Angler, like I've really fallen in love with a lot of California wines.
Yeah.
Specifically, I remember the Sandy wines is like a 2016 Bent Rock Chardonnay from Santa Rita Hills when I had first started working there, and we had like a few of them, and I remember falling in love with that wine. I remember also tasting with Isam and Raj Par at Angler with the boys, with Robbie and Angel, and that being a very formative experience for me that felt so like comfortable for all of them. But I was like, do you guys know what's happening? We're like tasting an Angler with Raj Par right now. Are you guys kidding?
Robbie could be comfortable in any situation.
Do not get me started on Robert Loiselle. I love him so much. But, it's like whenever you're like in these situations for a long time, you're like, this is like very comfortable.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, are you guys kidding? This is, y'all are all my friends, but that's Raj Par.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting tasting wines with him. I don't know. What else? Who else? Who do you like?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. It's tough, right? When I think back to my time in Texas and I try to think about producers that I could never get in Texas, right at the time there was all the big dogs that I used to sell at Chambers, like Literai and
Literary
Aubert,
for sure,
and
of course.
even Peter Michael, we get microscopic amounts. But a producer that's always had my heart, which is maybe a little passe for a lot of people, is Raffinelli. I love Raffinelli.
Oh wow, yeah,
I love
yeah.
Raffinelli. I mean, I remember in Texas, I would have this steakhouse reach out to me about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get me this wine, I'll buy 10 cases of it. And I was at Glazer's at the time, and we had the wine, but we got 10 cases for the whole state. And all they wanted was the Zin, not even the cab, just the Zin. We got 10 cases of Zin for the whole state. And when I moved to California, more specifically San Francisco, and everywhere I went, everybody had Raffinelli. I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And so while I wouldn't drink Raffinelli like on the day-to-day, I mean, that's a producer that I've always had a lot of love and admiration for. And they're cool. And I like female winemaker, and I've always loved female winemakers. More palate, less pride is what I always say.
Your words, not mine.
And they're third generation,
Yeah.
which there's more and more of them now, but there's not a lot of third generation wineries. So
who else do I love? I mean, I love Robert Sinsky.
yeah, Sinsky.
Sinsky was a big one for me, like very formative and like also like really classic. I like walk this weird line, and like not to get too much into my own personal philosophy, but like
That's what we're here for.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I feel like I walk this really interesting line, and plenty of people do it in their own way, and I'm not reinventing the wheel by any stretch. But there's a Venn diagram that I try and play in of like classic wines versus natural wines versus I hate the term natural wine, but that's how we talk about it now, right?
Yep.
Like of these wines, I like to think of, natural wines is a very, very large umbrella, and there's like a very big spectrum of what that means.
Zero, minimal intervention.
It means literally nothing.
So much. It could just be interpreted so many ways. Yeah.
It could mean anything. But what is important to me is that a wine is like soulful and has character and is like speaking from a person and a place. See, like a lot of us wine nerds are, right? We want to feel it more than we want to like taste these technical achievements. We want to like feel the things, even if they are a little bit rough around the edges in some ways. I have a certain threshold for some natural wine qualities,
as we all do.
but I would like to. I definitely can be a little bit of a hater.
Sure.
In a fun way.
Yeah.
In a really fun way. Super fun.
Yeah.
Honestly, I try really hard to think about wine in a holistic way that is very comprehensive of like classical history versus like what people are doing now. And I think that there's a lot of producers that have been making like really natty wine that are doing like really like that are like you can feel them sort of growing in the things that they're doing too, which I think is really fun.
Yeah, I mean, Foillard didn't happen overnight.
Right.
You have so many of these great natural producers in France that have been doing it well for, a generation or 30 or 40 years. And it's kind of like it's not a new development here, but it's maybe a more popularized development here. And people seem to need some time to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I love Foillard. So like, thanks for shouting that out.
Yeah.
I love Foillard very much.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I'm falling in love with domestic wine currently. That's sort of like a current mood for me, which is really interesting because it's, I think, later in a lot of, in my career than it is for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people grow out of domestic wine.
Right.
But I'm like growing into it.
Yeah.
In a time also where I think like domestic wine is getting really cool.
Yeah. I mean, you picked a good time to fall back in love with it. I mean, we
For
have, Lady of Sunshine and Scar of the Sea, that couple.
Yes.
You
Farm
have
Cottage.
Farm Cottage. You have part of the new project, Fill In. what the fuck is it called? Felon Farms?
Felon Farms.
Felon Farms.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
And like reasonably priced.
Reasonably priced.
Great.
A little different than what's the Oregon wine that Hayu, right? Those wines are great.
They're great.
They're not affordable, but they're great.
But I feel like we're also getting out of a time in domestic wine where it's like about prestige.
Right.
And we're taking this like.
It's a lot less point chasey than it used to be. Yeah. There's a lot less homogenization of style. People are not just pounding on the oak because they know that's what it's going to take to get 2 more points, 3 more points. It feels a lot more authentic than it used to be. Not to say that, the previous era wasn't as authentic, but I think the previous era was following a recipe for success that they saw and maybe less encouraged to just translate what they wanted.
That's such an interesting thing to say because I do think that is true. And I think that is like a greater metaphor for like kind of society in general.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think that I'm having a lot of fun with domestic wine.
Good.
And last night was like my last night at Angler.
Yeah.
It wasn't my last night at Angler. It was my last night working with Angel.
Right.
At Angler.
Yeah.
And you know Angel.
Yeah. Sweetest. Yeah.
That's a wild thing to say about Angel.
No, I mean,
No, Angel is so sweet.
At
He's
least,
like such a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I love Angel so much. Angel is so good at his job. Angel is absolutely like, if you're talking about someone pushing for excellence on a daily basis, like Angel will never let you see him make a mistake, even if it's like out of spite. Like never.
Yeah.
Never. He keeps everything so tight. He works so hard. He like really, really, really pushes.
Yeah.
And Angel is another person on my list of people that like I think of as a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who I will like always want to make proud.
Yeah.
And my last night with Angel was last night, and he's like, very frequently at Angler, we'll like open a cool bottle.
Yeah.
Open a cool bottle, we'll pour it, we'll sell it, we'll like taste it, we'll see how it's doing, And so last night, I was so surprised. I was looking for California Chardonnay. I was like, what California Chardonnay do I want to drink?
Yeah.
It was such a wild feeling. I didn't wind up opening California Chardonnay. I picked Burgundy, and it was
funny.
the right choice. It was so good. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. But I was like, truly, like, what do I want to open in California?
Yeah.
I didn't find anything.
Well.
But I did. There were like, that's where I went initially.
Sure. Well, within reason, I'm sure. 'Cause if you could open anything you want, I'm sure there's a few things that you could have found.
Yeah.
That you
I mean, like,
drink.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But that, I was like, my heart is kind of there in this sort of like pleasure way right now where I'm like, this is like pleasurable and enjoyable.
Right.
And I want to understand why people enjoy this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so many people are immediately like, I hate Chardonnay.
Sure.
I hate Chardonnay.
Hate Chardonnay. Love white Burgundy. Hate Chardonnay.
Hate you.
Yeah. I don't drink Chablis. I like Chardonnay. Fuck.
Have you seen the memes today?
No.
There's Chablis memes. They're out there. I'll send them to you. But
we lost one camera, so where the batteries on that one runs a little fast.
Too much?
No, it's fine. We should probably get to the point where we get towards the end. But before we get towards the end, what do you think about this wine? Do you like this wine?
I do like this wine.
Good.
This is right up my alley.
Yeah.
High acid, like really aromatic, very pretty,
Mm-hmm.
nice texture.
Mm-hmm.
Feels very sort of like ethereal and light. Really enjoyable.
Good. Like
on the list of things that I would like drink this with food, drink this with dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I would drink this at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's one of those no rules wines.
Agreed.
It's and also specifically I love this wine because it's technically this is rosé if you ask the Italians, but we've got a little Cerasuolo di Abruzzo from Cristiano Tiberio.
Yes, delicious.
Yeah. I thought, what's a wine that I would drink today? And I thought, it's warm. Also, I try to find a wine that is easy to drink during a conversation. I'm not opening a lot of like tight wound Barolos trying to have a conversation because it doesn't really get to that level. And then also, I don't know what the alcohol is on this. I usually go for, lower alcohol things. Maybe I'm giving away all my secrets, but I don't know. I can't. 14. Well, it's not as low as
14?
14.
Okay.
I could see it, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what is there anything else that you want to share? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I feel like I am such a talker, and I can just like get on a roll and talk about things that I'm not even sure I'm answering the question properly. The answer is no. I do not want to necessarily share anything else, but if you have any more questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. This has been really fun.
Good. The only question, do you have any advice? Do you have any statements or anything that you'd like to share with the world or the listeners or
kind of
out there? Yeah.
I do have something as someone who is in my like mid to late 30s, about to leave San Francisco, who has worked in the industry here for like on and off for 10 years. It's like, don't forget what you have. And take advantage of it and learn it and soak it up and spend time with your people and breathe in the air. And if you're working in the service industry or in wine or in beverage because you want to, like, remember that. Because we have so many tools at our disposal here. We have so many places to eat and drink and enjoy and like soak it up at our disposal here. And it is so easy to forget.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person that is doing this because I want to and is doing this for the long haul. I'm not like, I'm your beverage service girly for life.
It's not a fast money choice. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it wouldn't have been the career that I thought I was going to have right out of high school and into college. And it wouldn't have been what I chose. But today and every day it is what I choose.
Yeah.
And I hope that those of you who like do this and care about it, like choose it every day too.
That's so cool.
So that's all I got.
Well, cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Cheers
Thank
to
you so
San
much
Francisco.
for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to have had you.